Well, good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. And it's a little bit overcast today, but don't be fooled by that. It is actually quite muggy this morning. And I see there's a few magpies out. I've got to be a little bit careful of them little buggers. They're bad enough on the footy field, let alone out in the wild. So it won't be long before I'll be taking an umbrella with me just to ward them off. I've been scarred as a kid from magpies. Used to swoop me all the time as a kid, and I will not be embarrassed at all to take an umbrella in about a week or two, I'm thinking, but they're definitely out and about. Anyway, on to today's walk. And I got up this morning and I actually realised it's just under 3 weeks until I actually head off to the US for the Canelo and Berlanga fight. But I'm not just going for Berlanga and Canelo, I'm actually going, well, that's the main reason I'm going, but yeah, man, as Neil wants to go a different way, come on. But I'm actually I'm gone for 2 weeks. So what I'm going to do is just a stop on the East Coast, which is the New York side of the country. Of course, the Canelo and Berlanga fight is on the opposite side, the West Coast, which is Vegas. And so I thought I'd just share today what I'm actually going to get up to in my trip in just under 3 weeks' time. But before I do that, there was one thing I just wanted to cover. One thing, there was someone on the Talking Boxing on Monday night said, "Have you heard there may be George Kambosos Teofimo Lopez too?" I went, wow, that's news to me. That's interesting. No, haven't heard anything about it. I spoke with Noonan Boy recently, who's well entrenched in the camp. Now, I don't expect him to give up anything. You know, that's all in-house sort of stuff. And I respect Noonan Boy. He's just going to spill it out to someone that does this sort of stuff every day and might spill the beans. But I must admit, I sort of shrugged it off and went, oh yeah, I sort of doubt that. I doubt it. But then a couple of things have happened. I read that, first of all, Teofimo Lopez said he wants to fight later in the year against someone that might surprise the fans out there. Now, it's sort of, okay. But then I saw, I think it was Jim Kambosos, actually, George's dad, who said, could we see George Kambosos at 140 in his next fight? And of course, there is a big fight announcement according to George himself. And of course, Noonan Boy, who runs Australian Boxing Central, the best boxing social media site in the business, if you ask me, in Australia. But he said, could we see George at 140 for his next fight? And of course, Teofimo Lopez holds that 140-pound title. Now, is it the WBO? I think it is, yes. I just get mixed up. All these divisions, all these belts. So, could we see that? I think it was great. I was actually asked my opinion of what I thought about it if it was true, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's a fight that 100% makes sense, probably for both guys. Lopez would like to go up to 147 to fight Boots Ennis. Not sure that's the right step for him, and even more than that, he wants to go up and fight Crawford at 154, which I think at this stage is not really on the table. But and so there's not really much happening for him at the moment, maybe apart from some potential 140-pound unification fights, but there hasn't really been any serious talks as far as I know in terms of that. So, and of course he's always wanted revenge on George. Now, as far as George goes, when you strip it all down, there's not really that many options for him at the moment. And what I mean by that, he's coming off, 3 losses out of 4 fights. The 4th fight was obviously questionable as well. But that is what it is. But the thing is, at the moment, all the 135-pound champions seem to all be talking amongst themselves about fighting each other. And it's either that or maybe come back to Australia. I know Liam Wilson's made some noise. I can see here, he's made some noise about fighting George. He'd love that. So, but I don't think he wants to do that. I don't think he wants to do that, and I probably don't blame him. I think he's paid his dues. So I think coming back to Australia, with all due respect to Liam, I mean, Liam's done great things as well, but I understand that George doesn't really want to come back and fight Liam Wilson in what would be a semi-big Aussie fight, but it doesn't really do anything for his career. Now, the next obvious one would be Liam Paro, if it's going to be a 140-pound fight. Yeah, I think I said the other night, take it from me, I don't think that's the fight that's going to be happening next. Not just a hunch, I've spoken to some very well-connected people, and they've told me that that's not going to happen. I would love to maybe for that fight to happen down the track, but at this stage, not on the agenda. I've got Neil over there who's decided to go for a wander. Yep, he's seen me now, and I'm just not sure whether he's going to bother to take notice of me or he's going to just do his own thing. I'll just walk over to him. He's the sort of dog, he'll push it as far as he can. He'll look at you, he'll take a step, he'll look back at you just to see your reaction, and then, yeah, it's a little bit of a gesture or an oit or a click of the fingers or something, and he comes. He's actually a pretty good little dog. I think he's learnt now that he's safe, he's home, he's loved, and better do what he's bloody told. So yeah, I think Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos, yeah, if that is the case, again, I welcome it. I think it's a great fight for George. As I said, 135 champions aren't really doing a lot. Well, he hasn't really warranted now a fight against one of those guys, and I don't think it's amazing how quick he's sort of pushed aside. But anyway, I suppose the bottom line is at the moment, I don't think he's really factoring into another title fight at 135, and there's not really many other fighters at 135 that he could probably fight to get back into the mix at the moment. They all seem sort of very focused on each other. So what's the next logical move? The rematch, Teofimo Lopez. A new challenge. I think people would probably accept that fight, not just Australia, but the world, because of the revenge factor. Yes, they might say that George hasn't deserved a title shot, but when does that matter? When does that matter? Look at a lot of the fights we get all over the world at the moment. It doesn't seem to matter. The sanctioning bodies seem to just bend the rules as they need to. So I welcome it. I think it'll be a great fight, and he's done it once. Why can't he do it again? I know we would get a Teofimo Lopez who will be a little bit more switched on this time. Maybe, arguably, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe he could come and we get the best Teofimo Lopez, and the old adage, styles make fights, might come into play again. George would definitely fancy himself. Why wouldn't he? I think you'd see the old George, the one we saw against Lopez the first time, in his face, getting into his head. And I think it's pretty obvious to everyone that he has lived rent-free in Teofimo Lopez's head for the last, 3 years anyway. So I think it's a great fight. I think it does make sense. And if it does get announced, I know nothing about it, but if it does get announced, I would welcome it. I think it is the perfect fight. All right, on to my trip. Now, I think I've sort of mentioned this on Talking Boxing a couple of times, what I'm up to. So, of course, I'm heading over for Canelo and Edgar Berlanga on September the 14th in the States, September the 15th here in Australia, of course. And, yeah, September the 3rd I'm going. Now, I'm heading from Melbourne to LA. And then I think I get there at about 9:30 or something in the morning, or 9:15 in the morning. Normally I take the flights that get me there at sort of night, so I can stay the night and get a flight the next day, especially a long flight across the other side of the country, which is about 6 to 6.5 hours. So it's a fair old trip. This time though, because I'm getting there at 9:15 in the morning, I'm not really keen on going to a hotel, especially when you can't book in to a hotel until sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So there's no way I'm going to hang around, go to a hotel and come back the next day. So I've rolled the dice. I've got, I think, a 2:45 flight to Philadelphia, which is where my first stop is. So I'm just hoping and praying there's no delays, because that's what seems to happen with our mates at Qantas regularly. Look, you can always reschedule flights and everything else, but I'm on a little bit of a tight schedule, so I'm hoping that Qantas, for once, can get it right. But anyway, with all the travel, I get to Philadelphia at about 12:30 in the morning. I'll just get Neil here, who's decided to Come here, buddy. Come here. Come here. He's a little bugger. Oh, just decided to cross the road without letting me know. Oh, it's all good. All right, so I get to Philadelphia at 12:30. So the first day I'm there is just a nothing day. So what I'm going to do is just travel around Philadelphia for the day. I always like to do nothing on the first day. Just get my bearings, sleep in, you know, cruise out, go for breakfast, whatever it might be, and just have a little look around the town. Then the next day, that's when the fun starts. I'm actually going to do, and don't laugh, I'm doing a Rocky tour of Philadelphia. I've always wanted to go to Philadelphia and do this. So there's a guy, his name's Michael, is it Mike Yender or something like that? He's a Rocky impersonator. So he's going to take me on a tour of Philadelphia to all the filming sites. Yes, I'm going to probably run up the stairs. Yes, I'll get a photo with the statue. Yes, I'll be one of those wanky tourists, but I really don't care, because any boxing fan / Rocky fan, I'm sure you'll agree, when you're in Philadelphia and you do the Rocky tour, you have to do the steps and the statue and the filming location. So that's what I'm going to do there. And actually the other thing I'm going to do that night, the restaurant out of Rocky Balboa, so the 6th installment, and it's also in the Creed movies as well. It's Adrian's restaurant. I'm actually going to have dinner at that restaurant. So you can be rest assured I'll be getting all the videos and photos that I can in there. No doubt it'll be packed because it's obviously a tourist attraction, but I'm looking forward to doing that. It's an Italian restaurant, so I'm going to go in there and have a big bowl of spaghetti and meatballs or whatever it might be, and take in Adrian's restaurant in Philadelphia. So that's the first thing. Then the next day I'm actually going to drive up to Deer Lake. Now, if that name rings a bell, it is Muhammad Ali's old training camp. So it's about an hour and a half drive up to there from Philadelphia. And I'm going to go to his training camp, you know, the one with the name is painted on the rocks. And it's Muhammad Ali's camp. You no doubt you would have seen it along the line. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's not necessarily a normal tourist attraction. The guy that owns it, you've just got to contact him and he'll let you through. No charge, just a donation. So I'll be making a good donation, don't worry about that. It's just to preserve the site and make it worthwhile for him. Of course, he's got to keep it clean and tidy and maintained. So no dramas, giving him a nice little donation for that. So that's exciting. Of course, last year I went to Muhammad Ali's grave and his childhood house and all that in Kentucky. Absolutely love that. So this is another thing in a Muhammad Ali journey of actually going to where he set up his training camps for his fights. Then I'm heading over to Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Now I'm not really sure what relevance that has to do with boxing. It doesn't have anything to do with boxing. It's of course where Flight 93 went down on 9/11. I'm a big sort of history buff. I love learning about history, especially American history. Shanksville, Pennsylvania is where the flight went down. There's a big monument there, so I've always wanted to get there. I've been to Ground Zero 3 times, I think, 4 times, whatever it might have been, and I've always wanted to get to Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So I'm going to do that. So that's the one out in the fields in the middle of Pennsylvania. So yep, I'm going to do that, and then something that I wasn't really too stressed about when I first planned it. I just saw it and thought, oh, well, it's in close proximity, I'll do it. But since then, I've really become, again, a lot more interested as far as being a history buff, and that is Gettysburg. Now, we've all heard the stories about the Civil War and all that sort of stuff. And again, I've always thought, well, I knew a little bit about the Civil War, but it's just barely scratching the surface about the Civil War. And I saw that Gettysburg was within driving distance. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to make the most of the trip and I'm going to drive to Gettysburg and just see what it's about. Now, I didn't really know much about the whole Gettysburg War, but since then, I've got to say, I've been really getting stuck into it. As many YouTube videos as I could watch about people that have been there, reading up on the history of it. I've watched the movie, which is 4 hours long. The Gettysburg movie from about 30 years ago. It's a fascinating story, it really is, and I can't wait to get to the battlefield and see the museums and I'm just the sort of person that once I sort of get focused on something, I become obsessed, and I just delve into it as much as I possibly can. Now again, I could probably study it for the next 3 weeks and it still probably won't be enough. When I get there, I'm sure I'll learn a ton of stuff, but yeah, the Gettysburg thing has really fascinated me now, about with the Union up against the Confederates and how it all happened and what went down. Because if you don't know, Gettysburg was the bloodiest battle in the whole Civil War, and pretty much ended the Confederates' chances in that war. So, and then of course Abraham Lincoln made his Gettysburg Address as well, hence the name. So one of the most famous speeches in history. So looking forward to doing that, and then I'm heading to Washington to finish up my eastern side little getaway, and just because it's Washington, I'm not overly stressed but about the whole thing. Actually, just sorry to go back with the Gettysburg thing. Sorry, I forgot to mention what I'm actually going to do there. I've got a ghost tour the night I get there, so I go around to all the Gettysburg sites with. It's in the dark, of course. It's a ghost tour. They take you to all the landmarks. Then I've got the bus tour, and they take you on the battlefield ride around. It's about a 3-hour tour. So yeah, that's what I'm doing in Gettysburg, and then driving to Washington. But yeah, the first day I'm there, I actually have the Lincoln assassination tour, and that is going to Ford Theatre where he was assassinated, the house where he died, and just a few other places that have relevance to Abraham Lincoln in Washington. And then the next day is, I'm just going to do, actually I think it is that day as well because it's early in the morning, the hop on hop off tour. So it's just a bus that goes around Washington, and you can do it all day. You can just, as it says, hop on hop off. So I'll do the White House, and well, what else is there? You know, what is it? The Lincoln Memorial sort of thing. You know, the one I'm talking about with the steps where there's a big statue of him, the Smithsonian, all that sort of stuff in Washington. I'm sure there'll be other things that I'll plan to see. Come on, buddy, we're going this way. I'll just be the tourist in Washington. But then, again, one thing I'm really looking forward to doing on the second day is Arlington. This is Arlington Cemetery. This is where all it's probably the most sacred cemetery in America. It's got all soldiers that are buried there from all the different wars. JFK is buried there as well. So the eternal flame for JFK. Come on, man. There's also the changing of the guard, the guarding of the unknown soldier, all that sort of stuff. But I've watched a couple of documentaries on it, and it really is amazing. It's the amount of land that it's on. Come on, man. He's digging his heels in here. But yeah, so if you don't know much about Arlington Cemetery, look it up. It's just a fascinating place, and I can't wait to get there and check that out as well. And then on September 11th of all dates, which is not, of course, well, there's nothing wrong with traveling these days, but of course the date does just make, why say it makes you feel nervous, but you know what I mean. It's got a bit of a weird feeling traveling on September 11th. So I'm traveling to Vegas that day, and then I'll be, there's magpies looking at me there. I'll be staying at the Park MGM. It's where I like to always stay. It's right next door to T-Mobile Arena. So I'll be there for 3 days. Get there Wednesday night, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then home on the Sunday. So I know that's probably not a lot of boxing talk there, guys, but I thought you might be a little bit interested to see what I get up to on these trips. I love getting over there. I'm very fortunate to be able to do it through different means, and of course having a loving wife and trusting wife who lets me go and do what I do. So, and don't stress, I'll be having plenty of daily videos when I go. If you haven't seen my channel before or been with me long, I always do daily vlogs. Might be sort of 15 to 20 minutes each day of what I get up to. So I know the first half won't be boxing orientated, but I'm going to do it anyway, and you can either watch it or you don't. But it's very, very interesting stuff. So that is it, guys. I know I'll probably touch on a little bit more as we get closer to going. But as I sort of got up this morning and realised it's under 3 weeks before I go. So pretty exciting stuff. So that is it for today. Walking boxing. Have a great day, and we'll catch you tomorrow.